Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. J.D. Vance, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, is President Trump's pick for vice president in 24. I have been saying this would happen. You can look at the two segments that I've done the past month, predicting it would be J.D. Vance. He's the best choice for a number of reasons. He's the most like President Trump in terms of foreign policy and domestic policy, but especially in terms of foreign policy. He's a very, very, very good pick, and he's something that the establishment, especially Democrats, he's a pick the Democrats don't want, okay? In many ways, he's the most perfect candidate to be vice president because he'll defend Trump, and he'll defend Trump's vision on foreign policy, which is an anti-military intervention, anti-endless quagmire vision, which is exactly why I love Trump. But hit subscribe to this channel. Let's listen to J.D. Vance becoming the vice president in 2024. Trump is going to win, likely in a landslide. Hit subscribe to this channel. J.D. Vance will probably be the front runner in 28.
All right, time for a little convention business here. The chair states that in compliance with Rule 40B, the chair has been furnished with evidence that a plurality of the delegates from each of 5 or more states severally support the candidate who will be presented for the nomination for Vice President of the United States. The chair would like to remind delegates of the provisions of Rule 40A, which provide that in part, if there is only one candidate for nomination for Vice President of the United States who has demonstrated the support required by this paragraph B of this rule, a motion to nominate for such office by acclamation shall be in order, and no calling of the roll with respect to such office shall be required. At this time, the chair states that she has been furnished with evidence that there is only one candidate for nomination for the office of Vice President who has demonstrated the support required under Rule 40B of the Rules of the Convention. Delegates and alternates, the chair recognizes and is pleased to introduce John Husted, Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, for the purpose of nominating. Please give him a warm welcome.
Are we ready? Are we ready to nominate a vice president? How about you, Ohio? Yeah! That's awesome. I'm John Husted, the Lieutenant Governor from the great state of Ohio. It is an honor to speak to you all this afternoon to formally nominate the Republican nominee for Vice President of the United States. Ohio is the heart of it all, and that is certainly the case once again here today. The vice presidency is an office of sacred trust. The man who accepts this nomination accepts with it the awesome responsibility to give wise counsel to the president, to represent America abroad, to preside over the Senate, and to be ready to lead our nation at a moment's notice. Such a man must have an America first attitude in his heart. He must, amen. He must embrace his obligation to the American family, the American worker, and the American soldier. He must believe that America is exceptional. And be prepared in the tradition of our founders to pledge his life, his fortune, his sacred honor to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. He must share the values and principles of our presidential nominee and be trusted to faithfully implement the will of the people. J.D. Vance is such a man.
J.D. 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 J.D.
A man who loves America and will represent our people with moral courage, strength, and honor. J.D. is a living embodiment of the American dream. He came from humble beginnings, and even as his life took him to places he might have never imagined, he never forgot where he came from. Ohio values are in his blood. He served our nation in the United States Marine Corps. He is a graduate of The Ohio State University. He graduated summa cum laude from Yale Law School and is the author of the best-selling book Hillbilly Elegy. And he is a crusader for the people of the Ohio in the United States Senate. He has never forgotten the working people of our country, and he never will. He fought to bring investment to Middle America as a businessman and has fought to defend them every single day in the Senate. And this I know, he will faithfully stand by President Donald Trump's side as they win this election and change the course of our nation. They will change the course of our nation to the benefit of all American citizens and truly make our country great again.
Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate from the great state of Ohio. I know firsthand that my dear friend J.D. is a selfless and brilliant fighter. He is a patriot who loves America. He loves Ohio. He loves his family. He's a great father. He's a great man. And that's what we need in this nation today. To J.D. Vance, America First is not just a slogan. It's his North Star. He has followed it every moment of his life and career. He knows what it's like to live in poverty, forgotten by Washington politicians. He is dedicated to ensure that no American is ever forgotten again.
Senator J.D. Vance, his vice presidential nominee. Usha Vance, thank you, and God bless America.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely huge. And let's get Donald Trump Jr.'s take on this right now.
I want to get right down to Rachel Scott, who's with Don Jr. Rachel, can you get a question to the former president's son?
Yeah, Mr. Trump, the reaction just came in. It is going to be Senator J.D. Vance. What is your reaction to this?
I'm incredibly excited. J.D.'s become a really good friend of mine over the last few years. I think he helps us across the board in so many of the swing states that are going to be so critical. His story is just an incredible one. It's the American dream. It's about total success. He's just going to be an incredible pick.
The former president endorsed J.D. Vance in his Senate race. It was really a bright spot for Republicans in what was really a disappointing year. What are you hoping that he brings to this ticket?
The same energy he's brought Republicans in the United States Senate, I want to see on this ticket, and I think he's going to do that for sure.
You're very close to Senator J.D. Vance. You said there's a lot of acquaintances in politics, but you consider him a very close friend. This has been quite a public audition process, vetting process, to be Donald Trump's running mate. What do you make that it's now him?
Well, I'm super excited because I know the man, I know the character, I know his resolve. There's no weaknesses there. I'm just super excited about it.
Thank you so much, sir, for the time. I really appreciate it. Well, there you have it. That is the former president's son. This is a close confidant of his. As you can see, it's really crowded here as the former president's family. I'm going to
Let's get to more of, I believe, Donald Trump Jr. on what obviously President Trump surviving an attempt on his life. God bless the family of that firefighter who lost his life and the people who were injured. Terrible, terrible day in American history. Thank God Trump survived. And again, my prayers, God bless that family. That, you know, the firefighter who was a hero, covering his family, you know, shielding his family as he passed away. A real hero, ladies and gentlemen, that firefighter was. And those people who were injured, I wish them only a speedy recovery. God bless America. God bless God bless America. Here's Donald Trump Jr.
family to what happened to your father. How's he feeling today? Is he ready for what's in store for him this week? And what did you say to him when that first happened?
I literally called him, and you know, him and I have an interesting relationship. My first words, the first words out of my mouth were, "You're the biggest badass I've ever seen," and I actually mean that, right? I sort of just said it. Everyone these days is a tough guy on the internet or on a keyboard, but when you've actually been shot and you can get up, defiant, you know, fist in the air, telling people to stay in the game, to fight. That's exactly the kind of leadership we need. That's actually a man that's been tested. Everyone thinks they're going to be the tough guy. Most aren't. He is, and I could not have been more impressed with him in that moment. And I've been impressed with him for a long time.
This was an incredibly close call, and the former First Lady Melania Trump, I mean, put it so eloquently in her letter that it was so close. Her whole life could have changed. Your life could have changed. What did you feel in that moment when you found out what had happened? When just the first pieces of information were coming in?
Yeah, no, it was very tough because it took me about 90 minutes to actually get anything. Right, they had locked everything down. He's in the hospital. There's no cell phones, I assume, because of potential IED type stuff when they don't know what's going on. So I got a call. My father's been shot, and that's the only information you have. And it took about 90 minutes to even find out that he's alive and well. So that was a rough time. And then I spoke to him and I said what I said. And we sort of even in that moment, he was still having some levity, and you just back in the game. And it was incredible. It was actually a couple hours later when you sit down, you start reading it, you start seeing the videos, and that's when it was like just the adrenaline dump hits, and it was different. It was a life-changing experience.
There's a lot of scrutiny about the Secret Service. There's going to be oversight hearings on Capitol Hill. What do you think happened? Do you think something went wrong? Was he vulnerable?
Listen, I know a lot of those guys, and some of them are incredible patriots. I had a Secret Service detail for 4 years, but I also know, having had it, having been in it, having been both my father as a president, as a candidate, my own details, someone to get out on an open roof within 130 yards, I'm not going to be the guy to be conspiratorial, but something went wrong.
So should he stop doing those outdoor rallies, perhaps? I mean, is that what you would recommend to him?
I don't think he'd want to stop doing them. I think you see the response.
Maybe do you want to tell him?
Stop, but I think we got to guard that perimeter a little bit better. I came from a competitive shooting background. I mean, a 130-yard shot. It's like a 2-foot putt. That's nothing. It doesn't get easier than that. So that was truly divine intervention, as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think it's hit him yet? Do you think it's sort of finally settled in for him?
Oh, 100%. I think it settled in, and he's moving on. The resolve, the defiance that you saw in the seconds after that. He's just going to carry that energy on and fight for our country that way.
He's moving on now with this VP pick, J.D. Vance, who obviously was a favorite of yours. Talk to me about why, and what you told your father.
I just said, listen, he's a guy. What it is, I watched J.D. go into sort of, let's call it, enemy territory from a media perspective, go on the most liberal TV shows and prosecute the case for my father and against the Democrat lunacy that we've seen. He does that better than almost any of our people can do on more conservative television. And you see that, you see the intelligence, and you hear his life story. That's going to resonate. We have a very tough electoral college map. People are like, oh, it's over now. Nothing's over. It's not over. It's not over till the last ballots close on November 5th, and if the Democrats get their way, they'll drag it on till 2:30, 4 in the morning otherwise. So we have to stay in the game. He's a guy that can go to the Rust Belt, to the places like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and articulate that case. He's lived an incredible American dream story, and when more people figure that out, I think they'll see that I was probably really, really correct in sort of my choice.
Do you feel like he can lead? There's been some criticism that he doesn't have enough political experience. He's a freshman senator from Ohio, not enough
executive. Had zero political experience. He led us to peace deals in the Middle East, the greatest job economy in the world, incredible prosperity for everyone with no experience. If experience is a marker for Washington, D.C. politics, it's a bad one. How many people do we see that chair committees that don't know what they're talking about only because they've been there longer? I can go through whether it's Maxine Waters or a bunch of the Democrats, they're in positions of power because they've had tenure, not because they actually know anything about what they're chairing. If experience in politics is anything, I don't think it's very important at all, frankly.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
This is an excellent pick, ladies and gentlemen. You need somebody who Democrats, media, wonderful, morally superior, liberal Democrats just, really don't want. There are articles written, he's the worst pick that could happen. He's the most like Trump. Oh my God. He can't pick J.D. Vance. You don't want a Mike Pence 2.0. You don't want a Mike Pence 2.0. Mike Pence as vice president was essentially worthless. He did not help Trump. He did not defend Trump. They're going to do everything possible to try to ruin Trump's presidency. We've seen we've seen the capabilities of very, very sinister, evil people. Okay? Let's leave it at that. And you need somebody who is more like Trump than even Trump. You need somebody who does not worship or kowtow to Washington, to the conventional thinking about foreign policy, military policy, domestic policy in Washington. That's why you have endless wars. That's why you have, atrocities taking place in the southern geographic region of our country. Absolute atrocities that we can't talk about on this platform. So much so that, of course, AOC and progressives have completely ignored. But this is a really, really great pick, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pick for a number of reasons. He's going to defend Trump. And let's say, for example, there's another Steele dossier. He's not going to be quiet about it, which is complete nonsense, which is what the Democrats, DNC, and Clinton campaign actually faced an FEC fine because they purchased with campaign donations. It was a complete compilation of lies, hearsay, actually lies, fabricated, deceitful lies. It was a national security debacle, of course, but Democrats rallied around it because it hurt Trump. So you want somebody who's going to push back against media, against, rogue intel officials, against people that want to ruin Trump's presidency the next time around. Trump's going to win. Everyone must vote for Trump. We'll all vote for Trump. We all have to be engaged in terms of voting. But he's a very, very, very good pick. I should be around later tonight to talk more about it. If not, definitely tomorrow. I'll have an earlier live stream than usual. From here on out, I'll try to have an earlier live stream. But what can I tell you? It was a really, really wonderful pick for a number of reasons. Let's go ahead and listen to J.D. Vance. He's awesome.
Are you better off under Biden than you were under Trump?
Well, our next guest met up with the former president during a swing on the West Coast. Republican senator from the great state of Ohio, J.D. Vance, joins us right now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
So how surprised are you at the reception the president got out in Silicon Valley? Because traditionally they didn't embrace him last time, and now here they are with open arms and wallets.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, though. They've also seen 4 years of the Biden administration. And I think a lot of people are saying you compare the peace and prosperity of the Trump administration to the disaster of the Biden administration. It's not a hard comparison, right? So you did have an amazingly large number of people who were either centrists sort of sitting out 2020, there were a number of Joe Biden donors in 2020 who actually are now supporting the president in 2024, President Trump, that is. So I think you're seeing a lot of shift. I mean, the way that I put this is the donors who are really involved in Silicon Valley in a pro-Trump way, they're not big tech, right? They're little tech. They're starting innovative companies. They don't want the government to destroy their ability to innovate. They also don't like the big guys making it harder for them to innovate either. And I think that's really where the Republican Party is going. We're pro-innovation, pro-worker, but pro-small business, and that's what these guys are.
So David Sachs was your contact, and you worked with him to set this whole thing up. How many people were there, and could you give me an idea of what it was like in that room? And because it's very hard we're trying to digest AI on the fly, right? Sure. We're trying to find out what the next generation is. The president's got to stay away and also have a policy on this. What was it like?
Yeah, so these are some of the leading innovators in AI, right, who were in that room, probably a couple hundred people at the reception, very successful. But it's funny, Trump was sort of teeing off a little bit and saying, well, here's a thing I worry about with AI. Does anybody know anything about that? And so somebody raises their hand.
This was going on
in the meeting. I mean, he spoke for probably 90 minutes, and then he was like, oh, that's interesting. And then we talked about AI, some of the policy implications. It's really interesting. A thing that the media does and the Democrats try to do when Joe Biden has these very embarrassing moments is they'll try to say, well, Biden and Trump both have their problems. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. Trump is operating at a totally different level of energy and intelligence.
Could you imagine Mike Pence behaving or acting or speaking in this manner? He did nothing for Trump. He was a liability politically for Trump, my God almighty. He was the incredibly lifelike Mike Pence. You might as well have had, some kind of inanimate object. It was the same thing.
Than Joe Biden. Anybody who actually sees them recognizes that.
His fundraising has been off the charts since the conviction. Are you surprised by that?
Some ways I am, right? I mean, the numbers are shocking. The campaign thinks that in the weeks since the conviction, they've raised close to $400 million between outside groups, small dollars and big dollars. People are pissed off, excuse my language, but people are very frustrated by the lawfare against Donald Trump, and they're very frustrated that Joe Biden brought war and high inflation, and Donald Trump promised and delivered something else, right? It's not just that Trump is saying, I have a plan to fix this. We actually saw the results, and the results were so much better.
So it looks like the former president is getting close to their VP decision. You're on that list, and we got to ask you about it. You say, oh, I'm not going to be considered. I don't want the job. I just want to be a senator, yada, 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 the whole politician stick. But political insiders do say you're the closest to the president when it comes from an ideology standpoint, whether it's foreign policy or on economics. You understand him. You like Trump. You're out there on social media.
The main thing is foreign policy. You want somebody, and that's how you protect against, government officials, let's say, working in intelligence agencies who don't like your candidate. The whole thing with Trump and Michael Flynn and others was about foreign policy. That was the main thing. You have a vice president who's firmly on Trump's side in terms of foreign policy. Democrats, media, bureaucrats, entrenched Washington interests cannot ruin Trump's presidency with J.D. Vance. They tried and almost succeeded. Well, they were successful to a point with Pence.
You speak your mind. So would you say you're the obvious pick based on that?
I would not say that. Look, it's ultimately Donald Trump's decision. There's a lot of talented people to pick from. And look, I'm glad it's not my decision because there are so many good people. But as I've said to other people, I have not talked to Donald Trump about it. I'm very interested in helping him out, whatever that looks like. So if that means I'm helping out the people of Ohio and the Trump agenda in the Senate, that's great. If he asks me to serve, I will certainly do it.
Are there people on the list that shouldn't be on the list? Since you share,
who are they?
Rubio and Burgum would have been establishment. They would have been prime candidates potentially to turn on Trump or to just do what Pence did, which was kind of turning on Trump. And this was, okay, Love, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, Dr. Ben Carson. J.D. Vance is 40 years old and an Ohio senator, Big thing is that he's a best-selling author. That is actually huge in this day and age when people don't read books. A best-selling author with a book that resonates throughout the country, that Democrats and media and people on the left actually loved not too long ago. And so, but also raised enough money to win a very important, very, prestigious, or I should say influential Senate seat in Ohio. Okay. So very important state, which Trump already has, but still the ability to raise money was huge.
Again, I'm up right now.
If you weren't being considered, would you tell us, the people? Because the J.D. Vance that I know before he got elected would say, these people don't align with the conservative.
Well, look, if there were people on the list that I thought were total scumbags or bad people, I would say so, right? But I think you look at the list, you look at Doug, you look at Marco Rubio, you look at Tim.
Love Elise Stefanik also. But again, a congresswoman from New York, a senator from Ohio is pretty good. Tim Scott would have also been amazing.
Scott, these are all like fundamentally good and decent people, and I think all of them would make a fine vice president.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, we've heard that some of them have been asked to submit documents to be vetted. You're not at that level yet.
Well, so look, they've asked us for a number of things. I think that a number of people have been asked to submit this and that.
Like your taxes or something?
I don't know everything that they've been asked. But yeah, I mean, certainly have you committed a crime? Have you ever lied about this? Certainly you have those conversations, but I think a lot of people were having those conversations.
Do you feel like you're at a disadvantage, though, if you don't ask him about it and say, look, you can choose who you want, but I'd like to be considered, because I'm sure there's some on that list that are vetting themselves.
Yeah, the way I think about it, Ainsley, is the vice presidency is an important job to help the administration, to help the president, most importantly, help the country. And my attitude towards it is, if it comes to me, great, but it's not something I'm going to lobby for. I don't think that's the right attitude to take towards it. And, maybe Trump respects that, maybe he doesn't, but that's ultimately his call.
The one thing I know separates you from the others, your foreign policy, and it does kind of scare me a little. Are you an isolationist?
Oftentimes people say, are you an isolationist? No, I don't want endless wars. Why is there only two extremes here? Okay, no, not wanting endless military quagmires is something that everyone should aspire to. Everyone should want that foreign policy. That doesn't mean you're an isolationist, you're not a pacifist, but you don't send Americans off to never-ending military conflict just because a memo or some assessment from the intel agencies. They were wrong about the Gulf of Tonkin, wrong about WMD, wrong about around the Bay of Pigs, Gulf of Tonkin, WMD, and then the whole Trump-Russia thing was fabricated. So again, you don't want a person to kowtow and to just say, okay, yeah, send Americans off everywhere and anywhere. You don't want that.
No. Are you like, let Russia run wild? It's not my problem. We have too much of a deficit.
No, not at all, Brian. I mean, look, my attitude on this is we have to be focused on the problems that are directly facing us. I think that the threat from East Asia, from China, is a much more pressing problem for us. And I think on the question of Russia,
they're all linked, right? Russia and China working together.
They certainly have some linkages, but I think the important thing with Russia is we have to ask the Europeans to step up in a big way.
True.
The new 21st century world is going to look like America focusing on China.
Both? Can you tell them step up the same way at the same time? Lead?
Oh, we can certainly lead, but I think part of that leadership is having the Europeans spend 2% of their GDP on military and actually rebuilding their own industrial capacity.
Trump was so right to have them. I mean, this is the thing, like media and Democrats hyperventilated as always for everything Trump was right about. What is wrong with having other countries pay more for an alliance that ultimately we, uphold? That alliance is nothing without us. Okay, our military budget is like the top 10 military budgets in the world combined. So we're the ones that uphold the military budget. I mean, the alliance, and all Trump wanted was them to just pay more money. What is the big deal? My God, J.D. Vance is for this. That's good.
The Germans, at the very moment that Vladimir Putin threatens Europe, the Germans are deindustrializing. It doesn't make any sense. And I think the most important thing we can do from a leadership perspective is to say to the Europeans, step up. This is your continent. We've got to focus elsewhere.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today on the couch.
Good to see you guys. Good morning.
So, ladies and gentlemen, God bless America, God bless Trump and J.D. Vance, and especially the family of that firefighter who lost his life 2 days ago. Trump's life, a madman tried to take Trump's life, and he ended up taking the life of a heroic firefighter who was saving his family, who was shielding his family from saving their lives. And others were injured, and they're battling for their lives right now. God bless America. You saw what Trump was made of. You saw what Trump was made of. And I don't think that this current Democratic Party can actually exist in its current form. I think that they're going to get routed. They'll lose Congress, they'll lose the Senate, the House, and Trump will win in resounding fashion. Just a matter now of who he faces, but that's not even important at this moment, so I'm not going to waste anyone's time. Tomorrow, I'll be back early. Hit subscribe to this channel, people. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you around the world for watching. In Australia, New Zealand, UK, the Philippines, Canada, Nepal, Korea, Nigeria, everywhere around the world. Thank you for watching H.A. Goodman on YouTube. It means a great deal to me. I'm very blessed, and I'm very thankful to have everyone. And of course, in the U.S., God bless.